Good evening to all. Welcome you all to the daily current affairs session brought to you by Ganesh IAS Academy for the date 24th August 2023 for the news which came in Indian Express newspaper. Okay, let's get into the today's current affair analysis. The news related to Chandrayaan 3 mission because of the successful landing of our lander in the southern pole of the lunar. There has been 3 to 4 articles which I try to consolidate and to give to you in the simplified form, and the analysis related to it. Okay, what does the news says is that the news analysis across various articles says they have mentioned or identified what are all the benefits and what are all the way forward that the ISRO as well as the government of India needed to do hereafter to strengthen the space research, and then the Chandrayaan 3 mission itself, about the Chandrayaan 3 mission itself. So this is what the news is related to Chandrayaan 3 in today's newspaper is about. Okay, what kind of questions have been asked previously in civil service examination at mains stage is that, see, what is India's plan to have its own space station and how will it benefit our space program? So this is what they have been asking whenever there is a news related to space related activity, research in the areas of space is about. Okay, how the news is related to civil service examination is that the news is related to UPSC General Studies paper 3 under a topic called Science and Technology, and under that a subtopic called Awareness in the field of IT, space, computers, robotics, nanotechnology as well as biotechnology. Okay, let's discuss about the Chandrayaan 3 mission. As we all know, the Chandrayaan 2 could not be able to land successfully in the southern pole of moon. So as a follow-up to that mission to successfully land or lander the southern pole of the moon, the Chandrayaan 3 mission has been made. So it is the follow-on mission of Chandrayaan 2. It contains the lander as well as rover payload, and the mission will be launched through launch vehicle Mark 3 carry, and the lander payloads contains Chandra's surface thermophysical experiment, and then it contains instrument for lunar specific activity, and then Langmuir probe. What does the first component under the lander payload and what speciality holds is that the Chandrayaan surface thermophysical experiment will measure thermal conductivity as well as temperature. And as well as temperature. So what is the second payload under the lander is about is that the instrument for lunar is not specific, its seismic activity is related to measuring the specific seismic related seismic related events in the moon. And the third subcomponent of the lander payloads is Langmuir probe, and it is used to estimate the plasma density and its variations. Plasma density in the moon. So these are all the functions of the payload of the landers. Okay, and the rover has two payloads: alpha particle X-rays spectrometer and then laser induced breakdown spectroscope. And these two payloads will be used for measuring the elemental components of the moon. Okay, why the Chandrayaan 3 mission is being launched is because of three objectives. First is India wanted to, particularly ISRO wanted to demonstrate the softer landing of the lander in the southern part of the moon, and then demonstrate the roving technology in the southern part of the moon. Third objective is to do the scientific experiment in the southern part of the moon. So this kind of scientific experiment will be done by the payloads of lander as well as rover, which I have mentioned above. And how the payloads have traveled from Earth to the lunar orbit is that it is because of lunar orbit injection maneuver. But in the case of Russia's mission to the southern pole of the Earth, which was failed recently, the Luna 25 mission followed direct injection into the moon. So what is the difference between them is that in the case of lunar orbital injection maneuver, which is followed by the ISRO, the satellite will be revolving around the Earth in the elliptical path. So whenever it is coming towards the perigee position, it will the payload will accelerate heavily so that it could able to escape the gravity pull of the Earth. So because of the increased acceleration, it could be able to extend the distance of the orbit from one level to another level, so that it will be going to the second level of the orbit. So and it will increase the distance because of this acceleration, and it will be revolving around. When it comes here for third time, it will again accelerate and it will be jumping into the third level of orbit. Simultaneously, it will be maneuvering around the Earth for quite some time, and once it gathered a sufficient momentum to escape that velocity or escape the gravity, it will escape in after gathering that momentum, it will escape the gravity push of the Earth, and it will be reaching the Luna's orbit, where the reversal of the maneuver which was done in the Earth orbit will be done at the orbit of lunar. So this is what the lunar orbit injection maneuver which is being followed by Chandrayaan 3. But in the case of Luna 25 mission of Russia's moon mission, this is Earth and this is moon, means because of heavy engine and advanced technology being used in the engine of the rocket being launcher being launched by the Russia. In the case of Luna 25 mission, it will directly launch It will directly go into the orbit of moon without doing any kind of maneuver as in the case of Chandrayaan 3. So this is what the difference between the Chandrayaan 3 and Luna 25 mission is about, and this is what the kind of traveling has been made by the Chandrayaan 3 in reaching the Luna's southern pole. Okay, what is the reason why the nations are racing for moon's southern pole? Is because of the ancient ice which is present, the frozen ice which is present in the southern part of moon, and if the particular product or the item has been frozen, means its chemical as well as physical composition does not have undergone any kind of drastic kind of changes, because of which the site could provide ample evidence related to Luna's volcanoes and the materials of comets as well as asteroids which has reached the lunar millions of years ago, and then it could also able to gather some idea about origin of oceans, and then this frozen ice could act as a source of drinking water for the astronauts to do their moon exploration, and then the moon water could act as cooling element for cooling the equipment which is brought to the lunar area, so that the favorable condition could be created for the researchers to do research in the Luna's area in future. And then this water could be converted into hydrogen, which is the very important fuel which the whole country is aspiring about, because of transition of the entire economy from fossil fuel economy to non-fossil fuel economy, in which hydrogen will be one of the major important component when the country is transformed into the non-fossil fuel based economy. So the moon water could act as the source for the hydrogen. Then it could also act as the source for oxygen also. Similarly, the moon. So if we could able to find that whether the moon is going to have a conducive environment, means, and it has the potential to act as way station for our further exploration in the other interplanetary research. Similarly, it will help us to identify, because of our understanding about the material composition of the moon, the future lunar mining will be possible, and then through the evidence of these kind of activities, through the evidence of these kind of things, which we could able to understand the history of evolution of our solar system precisely. So these are all the benefits which the southern pole of the moon brings about. And how it will benefit our private sector industries, that so India, because of our India's technological demonstration has reached a new level because of our safe landing in the southern side part of the moon, which no country has made till now. India's image, or the technological image, has enhanced across the global world, so that India's space services for the global countries will increase, which in turn will boost the private investment activities. See, the global service which is going to get increased aftermath of the Chandrayaan 3 could not be handled by the government agencies only. So there need to be increased private sector participation, which will benefit the private players, more importantly the private space entrepreneurs. Secondly, the success has boosted the investors' confidence. Most importantly, the space sector's investors' confident. So they will be vying to invest in the space related activities in India. Third is it increased the morale of the space entrepreneurs as well as aerospace engineers and other space technical experts. So it will motivate them to stay back in India, contribute to the space for further space related activities in India. So in a indirect way, it will be stopping the brain drain from India. Right now, the space science is gathering momentum as an alternate field for IT sector. So it could also, and there is some because of this kind of investment as well as increased demand for space sector activities across the globe, the successful demonstration of a technology will increase the morale of the space entrepreneurs so that they could be stay back in India. And what ISRO needed to do further is that right now India could be able to do this kind of massive technological achievement not because of hugeness of budget but because of efficiency as well as productivity in the process of the technological development. So there need to be adequate increase in the budget, and also our engines need to get boosted so that in the future mission towards the moon we could able to reach the moon directly without doing any kind of maneuver, like in the case of Luna 25, in the case of Apollo mission, in the case of Change 5 mission of China, where these rockets or these spacecraft reached the lunas through direct injection, not through the maneuver injection, which I have explained in the previous slide. So it could able to save the time, cost, energy of the mission. And then there need to be increased participation of private players, which could be enhanced by easing the rules, regulations and requirements so that innovation could be further made higher. And then there need to be, this landing on the moon and then measuring the physical parameters of the moon is only initial step towards the next stages of next stage of the space exploration. There need to be global collaboration. Why it is that is? So right now, if we the Chandrayaan 3 will be measuring the physical components like the mineral composition of the moon and what is the temperature of the moon and how that surrounding will change if there is a direct effect of sunlight. So this kind of surrounding as well as physical parameters will be measured, and these data will be used in the future exploration like mining activities in the lunar region for our mineral requirement as well as the other renewable energy requirement. For this kind of activities or exploration needed to take place means there will be huge amount of investment which a single country could not able to do. So a global collaboration needed to get increased between the like-minded space agencies. And then we all know that right now there is a geopolitical tension between India, China, US is going on, and then Russia towards the whole West. So while having a global collaboration, this geopolitics need to be maintained proactively. That should not hinder any kind of global collaboration in terms of space. Then there need to be a reform in the international law. The Outer Space Treaty is made during 1960s and the Moon Treaty is made during 1970s. Right now, because of the technological change, socio-political change, socio-economical change, there need to be reform in this kind of laws, so that there won't be any kind of loopholes will be there. So India needed to play a proactive role in ensuring the global international law as well as forming its own domestic law. So these are all the way forward which the ISRO as well as Government of India needed to do. So what we needed to study further is that we should know about what is Artemis Accord. Second is we should know about what is Nizar mission, that mission which is taking place between the collaboration of India and USA, and then the Treaty of Spaces. Similarly, there is a collaboration for moon between India and Japan. What it is about, you should know about them also. These are all the other things which we needed to be aware of. Rajasthan gig worker law. What is the news is, right now the Rajasthan has passed the gig worker law to act as safeguard for the gig workers, those who are present in the state. And how it is the first of the kind in the country is that it has created a welfare fund. This welfare fund will be a percentage of amount that need to be transacted to the fund from the transaction that is happening with the platform companies. So a separate dedicated fund has been created, and this fund will be used for social security benefit of the gig workers. And then this fund will be managed through tripartite welfare board. Tripartite means there will be members of employer, gig workers union, and then the government. So they all three will combine to, they will be managing the fund. So that there will be increased transparency and accountability in the case of channelization of the welfare fund. Then the sharing of the transaction data. See, right now this transaction data which the platform company is doing, transaction amount as well as quantity of income or the data which has been transacted by the platform companies is opaque only. It is not known to everyone, even to the workers of those particular platforms. So by making them compulsorily share their transaction data through the government website, the workers could be able to know the kind of transaction that has been happening in the platform companies, so that they could be able to raise their voice and they could become aware as well as empowered if there is any kind of injustice that is happening through them. So the data is very important. But there is a issue in the law, because the law classifies the workers not as workers or employer but as aggregators, so that it delineates them from the definition of workers and the social securities being given to the employees or the workers in various statutory acts. So this is what the positives as well as issues in the act, which is first of kind being passed by Rajasthan state government to regulate the gig workers under the act. Okay. How the news is related to the civil service examination is that it is related to UPSC GS3 economic development under a topic called effect of liberalization on the economy. And how the question were asked in relation to the gig economy is that during the previous year mains examination, there was a question like, examine the role of gig economy in the process of empowerment of women in India. A 10-mark question. So this is how the question is being asked. Okay, what is the gig economy? Let's discuss about it. Let's discuss about what is gig economy as well as the gig workers. What does they mean? See, the gig it is the market economy where temporary positions will be common. The organization will be hiring certain people for on the basis of contract for temporary basis. Why they are hiring is that because of the expertise they provide or other opportunities they provide to the organization. So the basis of the contract is temporary in nature. So this is what the economy is about. Gig economy is about. And what does the gig worker is? Let's discuss about it. Gig worker is nothing but whenever an employer engage in an economic activity or a work and he earns income from the work, but this engagement as well as earning of income will be outside the traditional employer-employee relationship. So such kind of workers are called as gig workers. Okay, this is what the gig economy as well as gig worker is about. Let's discuss what are all the causes for rises of gig economy. Because of increased technological advancement, there has been an increased flexibility is taking place. That is, a person could able to access a work through the online means, and also he could able to do a work at any time, at any place, according to his convenience. And then the economic condition, because of 2008 economic crisis and the related impact made many countries youngsters or the employed persons to lose their job. As a result of which, if a person is losing a job, means on the one hand he will be searching for alternative job, on the other hand he will be doing a part-time job. So this kind of situation, when most of the employed people who got laid off because of the economic crisis made to search for the some part-time job during that period, led to the rise of gig kind of economy. And then the change of attitude among the youngsters or the new employees, new generation employees, who and then cost saving, because of the organizationals, most of the organization is showing interest in the gig economy because they could be able to save the cost in the name of recruiting as well as training those employees. So by making a contract with the person for a specific period of time for its expertise, for the expertise provided by him, will save a huge amount of money for the organization. And then there is a rising consumer demand as well as urbanization is also raising the gig economy as well as gig workers. And then startup culture, which is going around or increasing in the global world, also a cause for the rise of gig economy. So what is the problem being faced by the gig workers is they have been faced up, they have been challenged by lack of access to social security benefits. Secondly, their job is not secure. They could be removed at any time, any place, at any situation. Their consult during the layoff or taking them out of the money, out of the job, their consultation will not be made. So right straight away, the organization will lay off them if their if the particular individual's requirement is over means. And then the person, those who have been employed in the gig economy, there is no avenue for him or her to upskill himself. Then there is a lack of career advancement in the gig economy for most of the workers. And then each individual will act individually only, and so that it reduces the bargaining power of the individual against the organization. So these are all the drawbacks of the gig economy as well as the gig worker. And what is the gig workers situation in India? According to Niti Aayog, in 2020-21, nearly 77 lakh workers were engaged in gig economy, and they have been what is the percentage of them is that nearly they constitute around 2.6% of non-agri workforce and nearly 1.5% of the total workforce, and they have been expected to grow around 2.35 crores in 2029 and 2030. And among the people who have been employed in the gig economy, the person who has mid skilling is higher than the percentage of persons who have been employed in the gig economy having mid skilling is higher in terms of percentage when compared to lower skilled person as well as high skilled person. And this situation will be turning around after 2030. So this is what said by Niti Aayog in its report. Okay, what needed to be done is that these individual gig workers needed to what needed to be done is that the self-employed workers needed to be linked to the platforms. There are more number of individual gig workers who are self-employed. They are employed by themselves, like in the case of street vendors and other persons, and they could not able to reach the huge market. So by linking them with any kind of platforms means, or the related platforms means, they could able to reach the more number of market. And secondly, by providing outcome based skilling to the person, those who have been employed in the gig economy, and then increasing the social security benefits to them, and a separate enumerate exercise needed to be taken, like in the case of periodic labor force survey, which surveys about the employability as well as which surveys about the indicator of employment as well as unemployment in India. Likewise, this separate enumeration survey needed to be take place for gig workers, so that their situation could also be known at frequent interval of time, and so that a policy measures could be changed so that their grievance could be addressed. So this is what the additional thing which we needed to do. So what we needed to study further is we should know about what is periodic labor force surveys about. Second is we should know about e-Shram portal. Third is we should know about EPFO, its structure, function as well as the organization and the ministry which controls the employee provident fund organization. Fourth is we should know about the code of social security 2020. Okay, this is what the analysis related to gig worker and gig economies. A time for Africa, a news which came in today's or an article came in today's Indian Express newspaper, where it said that it is important to integrate the Africa to the global market so that there will the global growth could be more inclusive. Why the author has made a pitch to increase the integration between the global trade as well as global economic transaction with the African continent is that because it holds the huge potential. Right now it holds nearly 30% of the global mineral resource, and then it has some 12% of the world oil as well as 8% of world natural gas, and then there are and it is going to be the future young worker country or the future continent which is going to have more number of young workforce. And then so these are all the potential it holds. So that what is the action council of the business 20 which is formed under G20 which is right now happening across the country recommended is that there need to be enhancement in the human capital, that is there need to be increased education, increased health related activity, increased employability of the African youngsters or the people those who belong to Africa. Then there need to be increasing in productivity in agriculture of the African continent, because nearly 70% of the workforce have been employed in agriculture activity. So it is suffering from disguised employment. So majority of the agriculture activity is only sustenance based only, and it is not related to or surplus it is not oriented towards export. And most of the agriculture products which is being exported out of the African continent is not processed at all. So the kind of value addition in the agriculture product is also very less. So that there need to be increase in the productivity of the agriculture, and then there need to be increase in the enhancement of the manufacturing sector. So if the agriculture sector is growing means, then correspondingly the manufacturing sector should also grow so that it will be supporting each other or complementing each other in their own growth. And then the trade facilitation between the countries of the African continent should be made, and it could be made only through the technology only. So these kind of recommendation has been provided by the Action Council, which the world country should come forward to help the African continent in these areas, so that they could able to reach their fullest potential, which will be very helpful for the overall growth of the global economy. So this is what the news is related to. Okay, how the news is related to civil service examination is that the news is related to UPSC General Studies Paper 2 International Relation under a topic called Bilateral, Regional and Global Groupings an agreement involving India and are affecting the India's interest. Okay. What is the previous year mains question asked in relation to the news is that if the last few decades were of Asia's growth story, the next few are expected to be of Africa's. In the light of this statement, examine India's influence in the Africa in the recent year. Okay. So we have seen the potential of the Africa for the global growth. Let us discuss how India is maintaining a relationship with the Africa. First, India has history, cultural, economic, political with Africa as well as the countries, those who are present in the African continent way back many thousands of years ago. And then India's nearly 3 million diaspora of India have been present in the African continent. And then more than 70 billion dollar of trade is happening between India as well as Africa. And then India soldiers have been employed or have been made to provide peace in the African continent, because most of the Western African continent as well as Central African continent have been affected because of this kind of internal security problems. And then there has been a huge number of migration, refugee crisis that has been happening. So in order to stop it and to make the people to live a peaceful life, India's peacekeeping force has been employed in most of the African countries. And then India and the countries like Nigeria as producing as well as exporting the oil. So India has made an enhanced cooperation between these oil producing countries in the Africa, so that India's energy basket or the energy security could be assured. So it makes our basket of importing countries diversified, because the Africa's potential in oil producing as well as manufacturing will reduce our dependency on Gulf countries. And then India right now heavily investing in Africa in terms of education. They are providing training, skilling to their youngsters, so that their employability could get enhanced. And then building infrastructure across the European continent, and then providing hospitals, and then enhancing cooperation in terms of science and technology. And then right now the cooperation in relation to agriculture is also getting increased. Since Africa is the agriculture dependent economy, India is trying to use this opportunity to fulfill our nutrition as well as food security problems in India. So what are other challenges that has been faced between India-Africa relationship is that there has been huge interference by China. China is investing heavily, more than the amount which has been invested by India. And then India has limited resource in investment in Africa when compared with the China. And then our investors have some concern to employ their private capital or invest in the African countries because of corruption, internal security problems, and terror related problems, etc. And then India's slow delivery of commitments made to Africa is also acting as hindrance for the relationship. And then there is no vision between India Africa relationship until now. So these are all the, if there is a vision means it will be acting as the catalyst for the growth of the relationship. So lacuna or lack of vision slows down the growth of the relationship. So these are all the challenges right now being faced between India and China relationship. So what we needed to study further is there need to be periodic leaders summit, and then annual strategic dialogue need to be made between India and African Union and India and individual African countries, and then there need to be increased collaboration in terms of defense areas, because African country is very important for India in order to have a strict vigil for our trade that is happening in the happening through the horns of Africa, and also strengthening African countries is very important for India to have say in the Indian Ocean, or to maintain a dominant position in the Indian Ocean, so that we could able to reduce the China's influence across the region. And then setting a center for African studies, so that it could act as a think tank for the India Africa's policy formulation. And then there need to be increase in the deepening of science and technology cooperation, particularly after the Chandrayaan 3 safe landing in the southern pole of moon. So these are all the areas which we needed to study further, and India right now is taking a lead in the G20 by providing support for the African Union to be part of G20, and India is also using this forum to make consensus between G20 members that the African countries should also be part of the G20 groups. But right now India is only pitching for it. Then the consensus has not been made between the countries, and India is acting as the leader of global south in the G20 forum, not only in G20 forum, across all the forum. And the global south means the countries those who are belonging to developing, underdeveloped and small island state countries and poverty related countries, and surely the African countries will be coming under global south only. So India is acting as the voice for China, Africa, into more number of countries, including African countries, in the global arena. So these are all the things which might deepen the relationship between India and Africa in the coming future. So what we needed to study further is we should know about African Union, the structure, composition as well as function. Second is we should know about the formation of non-alignment movement. Third is we should know about the African map. Fourth is we should know about International Solar Alliance, BRICS as well as IBSA. These are the regional groupings which India and African countries are having a strong relationship. So these are all the things which we needed to study, and this is what the analysis between India and China relationship is about. Port project in Peru. What is the port project is that right now China is building a port of Chanchai in the Peru coast, in the Pacific region, and it is the part of Belt and Road Initiative, and it could able to connect South America to the Asia, and because of the building of this port, China could able to reduce their trade traveling time by 10 days. So right now a concern has been made by the USA, because it could act as base for Chinese military's presence. And how the news is related to the civil service examination is that it is related to civil service examination under GS2 under a topic called international relation, under which a subtopic called India and its neighborhood relationship. Okay, So this is how the prelims related question is asked in relation to the Belt and Road Initiative. BRI, that is Belt and Road Initiative, is sometimes seen in news or mentioned in the news in the context of affairs of African Union, Brazil, European Union as well as China. I want those students, those who are watching the current affairs session online, please do comment the option point for the question which you are seeing right now on the board. Okay, let us discuss what right now it is going. China is started to create a problem in the Pacific region, and it has already created a problem in the South China Sea. So let us discuss about what does the South China Sea crisis holds. The China claims nearly almost entire region of the South China Sea, but the other countries, other small Southeast Asian countries are opposing the claim of the China in the entire Southeast Asian South China Sea. And how the China is claiming is that it is claiming based on the law of sea convention and also a 9-dash line. So through this convention as well as through this 9-dash line, only China is having claiming on South China Sea. But the International Tribunal during 2016 has ruled against the claim of China. But the China rejected the rulings itself. So China is acting against the international rules and regulation. So this is what the crisis is related to. And what stand does India took right now till now is that India follows a policy of non-interference in the disputes between the sovereign nation. But India is having a presence in the South China Sea because to secure its interest. What interest is? More than 50% of the India's trade is happening to the South China Sea only. So if the China is having the presence there, means it will be acting against our interest. So our Indian Navy's presence is made there. So our interest has been so that our interest been safeguarded. And now the India has started to internationalize the crisis, South China Sea crisis, in different forums, and also being the member of Quad, which is seen by the whole world as anti-China initiative. So these are all the analysis and the India stand in relation to the South China Sea crisis about, and we should be aware of the port mentioned in the news, also the sea in which it is being built upon. It is the prelims fact which we need to be aware of. Okay, what we needed to study further is we should know about South China Sea map. What are all the islands that has been in the sea? Second is we should know about the Belt and Road Initiative. Third is we should know about the India-China relationship itself. India-China's relation and what is way forward and what are the challenges it is been facing right now. These are all the things which we needed to be aware of. Okay, students, we have come to a end of the session. I hope the session will be useful for those who are watching, and also please do comment if there is any kind of suggestion or improvisation is required from our side. So thank you.